SpaceX has just finished stacking Booster 7, the first Super Heavy booster prototype intended to host 33 new Raptor V2 engines. This means that the B7 has many differences from previous prototypes. So, what are these other upgrades? Let's find out in today's episode of Great SpaceX. Designed to launch Starship's massive namesake upper stage part of the way to orbit, Super Heavy is in many ways simpler than Starship, but just as complex and unprecedented in others. Ignoring SpaceX's unusual plans to have boosters land on huge mechanical arms installed on a skyscraper-sized tower, Super Heavy is merely a large vertical launch, vertical landing liquid rocket booster, the likes of which SpaceX already has extensive experience with through Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy. What mainly sets Super Heavy apart is its sheer scale. Measuring around 69 meters from tip to tail, Super Heavy, just one of two Starship stages, is almost as tall as an entire two-stage Falcon 9 or Falcon Heavy rocket. At 9 meters wide, a single Super Heavy booster, effectively a giant steel tube, should be able to store at least 6 or 7 times as much propellant as Falcon 9 and about 2 to 3 times as much as Falcon Heavy. Engine count and peak thrust are similarly staggering. SpaceX's newest Super Heavy prototype, Booster 7, expands those engine-related capabilities even further. Instead of the 29 Raptor version 1 engines installed on Super Heavy B4, Booster 7 is designed to support up to 33 Raptor version 2 engines. While the version 2 design significantly simplifies Raptor's design to make it easier to build, install, and operate, it also substantially boosts maximum thrust from around 185 tons to at least 230. In theory, if Super Heavy B7 is outfitted with a full 33 Raptor version 2 engines capable of operating at that claimed thrust level, B7 could theoretically produce at least 40% more thrust than B4. However, B4 has yet to attempt a single static fire. The fact that SpaceX hasn't put B4 through a single full wet dress rehearsal, a launch simulation just shy of ignition, or static fire test after more than half a year at the orbital launch site has led many to assume that the prototype is likely headed for premature retirement. With B7 now perhaps just a week or two away from test readiness, SpaceX finally has a viable replacement capable of both carrying the flame forward and kicking off the qualification of the first prototype designed to use Raptor V2 engines. Booster 7 features a number of other design changes, including sleeker raceways, or external conduits that protect wiring and smaller plumbing, a different layout of the pressure vessels, hydraulic power units, and an umbilical panel installed on its aft, and significant changes to aero covers that slot over that aft hardware. But beyond its Raptor engines, the next most substantial modification made to Booster 7 is arguably a pair of Strake-like aero covers. A series of new, sharp-edged aero covers are now expected to slot over the top of 2 new pairs of 5 composite overwrapped pressure vessels that run about a third of the way up Booster 7's tanks. It's possible that they will function a bit like Strakes, fixed wing-like structures designed to improve aerodynamic stability. In comparison, Super Heavy B4 has 4 sets of 2 COPVs, spaced evenly around the outside of its engine section. Here's a very informative render of the major updates on B7's COPV array produced by O. Let's take a moment to appreciate his hard work. And please don't forget to support him more by following his Twitter account as well as his YouTube channel. It would be a pity if you miss all of his amazing 3D renders. With any luck, Super Heavy B7 will be fully assembled and ready for proof testing. It's very likely that it will take SpaceX several more months to mature Raptor version 2's design into something ready for flight and produce and qualify at least 33 of the engines, but in the interim, Booster 7 can hopefully kick off cryogenic proof and wet dress rehearsal testing as early as late March or early April. But during the completion of B7, SpaceX also actively installed and tested other prototypes. Brendan designed a Starbase production diagram, and it was really rewarding. Let's take a look at the diagram that was posted on the 9th of March, which you can see that both S24, 25, and B8 are being assembled on the build site. Notably, a special thing is happening to Mechazilla. One of the claws from the ship QD arm was removed. It's not clear what SpaceX's specific purpose in doing so is, but I guess there will be some little modification on the claw to make sure for the future stacking. Another big guess is that this is most likely the first part to be shipped to Florida. Anyway, the first segment of the SpaceX Starship launch tower at Cape Canaveral has started construction. For whatever purpose, as Zach Golden said, I hope this isn't too big of a setback for Starship full stack testing. Most recently, Starship Gazer captured a new booster stand installed underneath the chopsticks. Then, as you can see, B4 grid fin testing. One of the grid fins has been rotated for the first time. Huge thanks to Starship Gazer for continuing to document these amazing moments. Now, while SpaceX is still waiting for the final FAA verdict later this month, NASA's SLS moon rocket is almost ready for its first trip to the launch pad. NASA said its first complete SLS rocket is less than a week away from its first rollout and the start of its first East Coast wet dress rehearsal. That's a lot of firsts. Teams have begun retracting work platforms surrounding the fully stacked rocket, slowly revealing the launch vehicle assigned to Artemis 1, a much-anticipated and greatly delayed uncrewed test flight of the SLS rocket and Orion spacecraft. The Crawler Transporter 2, which will carry the SLS to the launch pad for wet dress rehearsal, also arrived at the doors of the VAB, or Vehicle Assembly Building, at NASA's Kennedy Space Center on March 12th. The rollout is expected to begin around 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on March 17th, and if all goes well, it should take the giant crawler tasked with carrying the rocket and mobile launch platform about 12 hours to carry them to Launch Complex 39B. The first hour of the rollout will extricate the rocket and its mobile launch tower from the VAB, followed by an 11-hour journey to the pad. At the pad, NASA will conduct a final pre-launch test known as wet dress rehearsal, which includes loading the SLS propellant tanks and conducting a launch countdown. Once the wet dress is complete, SLS will be rolled back into the VAB for final launch preparations, including the identification and repair of any issues found during wet dress, final Orion spacecraft work, and flight software updates. After SLS's return to the VAB, NASA expects that the finishing touches to take 1 month to complete. However, NASA officials admit that there is still a lot of work to be done to SLS before launch. And almost every aspect of the space agency's work on the rocket over the last 2.5 years has run into extensive delays. And that's all the information we have for you today. If you enjoy what my team and I are doing and would like to continue supporting us in a huge way, you can become a patron through our Patreon link in the description below. And don't forget to tell us what you thought about today's content. Everyone's support motivates us to continue delivering quality content and to always improve. Thus, if you could, give us a thumbs up, please. Anyway, as always, this is Kevin with Great SpaceX, and my team and I will see you next time.